Do you have any stories about people being incredibly smooth when hooking up? Context. Started work at a new bar. Really hot girl. Also new. Has also just started. We talk a little. Flirt a little. You know. Standard stuff. After the shift, my awesome boss walks down from the office with a few bottles of Havana Club and suggests we all get hammered. We all get hammered. Turns out hot girl lives in the same direction as me. As we're walking home, she eventually gets to the point where she's walking a different direction from me. She says, right, I'm going this way. Without skipping a beat, I turn back around and say, but my house is this way, and turn around and keep walking. About 10 seconds later, she comes running up behind me and grabs my hand. We went to my house that night. Really tough knowing that you've peaked in the attribute of awesome at the age of 20 years old. It's all been downhill since then. I just turned 21 and I've never been as awesome as that. Welp, I guess that's it for me. I was at a bar one time. I'd just broken up with my girlfriend and was drinking heavily to shun the blues. I'd been making that interesting eye contact with a beautiful brunette every time I went to the bar. She was standing with a large group of friends on the other side. Anyone can attest to how terrifying the idea of approaching a woman in that situation is. But after my 11th beer, I wrote on a napkin, I'm a writer. I'm funny and I think you're gorgeous, and I wrote my number on the bottom. I walked up to her, slipped it into her hand and kissed her on the cheek. She texted me less than 30 minutes later. I have a friend who is a street magician, illusionist, whatever. We're at a party and he's doing his tricks. This girl asks if he has any more and he says yeah, in my car. They go to his car and start messing around. Then she asks, do you have a condom? He sighs, says no, and then looks at her, says wait, what is that behind your ear? Then he pulls a condom from behind her ear. One of my favorite stories. A magician tried to impress my friend by doing tricks for her. He pulled stuff from behind her ear and made her phone disappear or something. She's a goof, so she loved it. Then he went in for a kiss. She's also from the hard part of Boston, so she punched him in the face. I was on a party sailboat cruise. Some friends had invited me with the idea that I'd get a chance to spend some time with a girl I had met at a previous party at their house. The night was going okay, but not spectacular. I was getting some encouraging signs from time to time, but she kept slinking away from me and I started to feel like it wasn't going to happen. I went below deck and bought another drink. When I came back, she was dancing with a 6 feet 4 inches Russian guy named Maximus. I'm not making that part up. So I had a decision to make. I could just spend the rest of the night drowning my sorrows. What I did was walk up to the guy, tap him on the shoulder and said, this dance is mine. Then I danced with my future wife for the first time. Meanwhile, up on stage, your future son's hand reappears and he starts playing guitar again. When in university, had a really cool housemate, girl from my high school. We had never really talked before I moved in. Fashionable, dyed green hair, skinny with a wicked smile. Anyways, we went 3 years living together without incident. Then she graduated. A month later, I called her up just to hang out at a bar. She came back to my new place, and we were lying in bed talking about the good old days. Then I asked her to come visit more often. She says, there's really no good reason for me to drive all the way back here. Then I reply, I could give you a reason. What? So I rolled over and kissed her. 3 years later, we're still going strong. Was hooking up with a girl and somehow got in bed with her without actually having kissed her. And she pulled my hand up her shirt and I stopped, pulled back, said I think we skipped a step and then kissed her. That's the best I've ever done. Wish my ex was as smooth as you. We did everything short of fricking and he never did kiss me. I have this friend, not incredibly good looking, that was at a party with me and my other friends. He goes up to us and asks should I ask her if she's down to frick. This girl was pretty by the way, and so as you expect, drunken him goes up and asks her if she's DTF. And we thought, well, this will blow up in his face. Well, it didn't, and he went to her place and proceeded on his way to herpes. TLDR, herpes. Hey baby, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? Because frick me. Sounds like something Archer would say. If someone started touching my crotch in front of a bunch of people, even if it was in a demonstrating way, I'd be creeped out. Kind of violation. I don't know if this counts as incredibly smooth, but I've seen a few posts about hooking up unconventionally, so I'll throw in my hat. I'm at a party, had just gotten there, see a cute girl and a few other people talking. Figure I'll interject myself into that conversation. I walk up to them, overhear that they're talking about a blacklight party, so I say, you don't want to get me in a room with a blacklight. I'll freaking glow. All three of them look at me with pure confusion on their faces, none of them having a clue what I'm referring to. I keep my face completely straight and respond, because I'm covered in semen. Said cute girl and I just celebrated 6 months together, and she maintains it's the single worst pickup line that has ever actually worked. I was making out with a girl and put my hand in between her legs. She slapped me, and in the heat of the moment and without thinking I slapped her back. She smiled and then we hooked up. Honestly, I was very surprised. That was pretty weird. I once got a girl's number by talking to her, then getting the urge to pee and said, look, I really need the loo, so can I get your number and we'll meet up for coffee sometime. If that isn't smooth, then obviously my dictionary sucks. Being cool about stuff others might see as embarrassing is the easiest way to seem confident. That's pretty much my entire shtick. My friend and I were just hanging out at my house. He invited 2 of his girlfriends over that I didn't know. After just chilling, watching TV, my friend and one girl went downstairs. So, it was just me and this girl. I just looked over at her and I said, I know you want to kiss me. Her response was, but I barely even know you. So then I said, that doesn't make a difference. If it's going to happen eventually, then I got laid. Then your friend paid them. This is definitely not a line I made up. In fact, I may have read it on Reddit. But this New Year's I was with a group of people, one of whom was the girl I was working on the whole night. Eventually we kissed and we sort of talked about doing more. She mentioned that she was Catholic or something and how it would be a sin. So I said, if we don't sin then Jesus died for nothing. We sinned. We sinned. Oh, we sinned hard. Excuse my English if the grammar is terrible. Swedish is my native tongue. I always see this, and without fail, the grammar of the non-native speaker is better than most natives. To be fair, he is a Swede. Nordic fricks always speak proper English. It comes in pretty handy. As a Dutchman myself, my vacation in Sweden was in reality a vacation in England with Swedish tags on groceries. There was this one time when I was hooking up and I backed the ball of my truck right underneath the receiver on the trailer on the first try. It was magical. I met a girl once and she seemed pretty cool. I asked her to come around and play Mario Kart with me. It seemed innocent enough, but Mario Kart is such a great icebreaker. Girls love it. It's fun and relatively careless, but it can lead on to so many things. So we played Mario Kart and then watched Wall-E, which she hadn't seen before. In the scene where Wall-E grabbed Eve's hand, I did the same with her. By the time the credits were rolling, we were full on cuddling. As it ended, she started furiously making out with me. Lesson of the day: B love Mario Kart and Pixar films. We were both 17 at the time. Stop it with the stupid jokes. I'm not ashamed to full on cuddle anyone. Full on cuddling. I once went to a club with a bunch of and ended up having a threesome with a Jewish girl and a Muslim girl. I had a threesome and solved the conflict in the Middle East. Pretty dang smooth if you ask me. I had a friend who brought a bunch of fortune cookies to a Chinese restaurant that said a handsome man will meet you tonight and make your dreams come true. From there he would have the waiter give them to a girl in the restaurant, and after they opened it he would approach them and say, ready to make your dreams come true. He got laid that night. Best part is, it was an Italian restaurant. I was on a first date with a girl and we were making out on the couch. She asked, what are you thinking? And I immediately replied, I'm thinking my bed is a lot more comfortable than this couch. It was. Friend is at a gaming convention at local college. Sees girl who he's obviously been with before. She walks up and hugs him. He makes small talk and is all, oh hey, how have you been, gorgeous? And as he hugs her, pulls her checkbook out of her back pocket, then casually slips it back in. When she notices, he just smiled at her and said sorry, it was in the way. After a few minutes of talking she walked off and we asked him about her. Yeah, I got lucky. I couldn't remember her name, so I'm glad she had her checkbook on her. The smoothness was epic. Smoothness at a gaming convention is an oxymoron. I know a guy who had a full body wax when he was setting up his Xbox. My friends and I frequent a little bar in our hometown that gets enough traffic to be worth going to, but isn't overly packed or obnoxious. We pride ourselves on being men about town, so to speak. It seems a little distasteful in this forum, I suppose, but this isn't uncommon among young men. Anyway, there's one young vixen at this bar who none of us could seem to land. She's a regular, like us, and she's absolutely gorgeous, but none of us ever seem to leave with her on our arm. Each of my buddies tries, and each of them strikes out. They return with tidbits and tips for the next good wingman that they are. She likes to read, or she likes this kind of drink. So my turn comes up, and I do what comes naturally to me. I walk right up to her, unattainable goddess that she is, and order her favorite drink. The bartender brings it, and while she's distracted, I use the power of my mind to tear all of her clothing off. It all just rips completely off of her body, every stitch. She tries to cover up, hide herself behind the bra stool, but it's too late. I've seen everything. I take back everything I've ever said. This is the best novelty account. I dunno. But once in high school I was hanging out with friends on the beach. We were getting drunk and I turned around the corner and saw the girl I had been crushing on for a while and just went, "Wanna hook up?" She said yes and we did. Not that smooth but still felt pretty good when I found out she liked me. Alcohol. Confidence in a bottle. A good friend was at a Whole Foods market and got up to a checkout line. A guy who my friend had noticed in the store before got in line behind him. Once my friend was done checking out, the guy said, "I noticed you don't have any frozen foods in your cart." My friend replies, "Yeah, so?" The man says, "So why don't you come and get a cup of coffee with me after I'm finished checking out?" My friend went, and is now gay. So smooth that he switched teams. Because that's how physical orientation works. I was on the phone with a girl that responded to one of my apartment listings. In NY, you need a roommate or you need to be rich. And we were talking on the phone and basically got to the point of, "Oh, you seem really cool. Let me check with my dad if I can live with you." So, she calls me back 5 meters later and she's like, "My dad says I can't live with a boy." "Sorry," I respond, "Oh, that sucks. Want to get a drink later?" Turns out she was on her way to go meet some other guy for a date in the city. Got her to leave that guy in 5 meters and then met up with me. Still together, almost a year now. I am court ordered not to discuss how smooth I am. In college I used to drop the line, "Let's go frick" quite a lot. It worked. Sometimes being as smooth as possible is the best option. Keyword college. It was my freshman year of college. I'm totally apprehensive as I'm stumbling around campus, getting swallowed up in a sea of strange faces, trying to find my way into the groove of things. When I see her, this girl is perfect, to me at least. It looks like she's headed to the bookstore. Thank God I studied the school map. I think to myself, I decide I've got to buy my books anyways, so what's the harm in going into the bookstore now? I was planning on getting in line directly behind her, but it took me way too long to find my books and before I knew it she was in line, snaking around all the shelves. I felt like I'd lost my only opportunity. Crushed. I get into line anyways and shuffle along in low spirits, when suddenly I realize the line is snaking back towards me. For a brief second she was directly in front of me, so I thought to myself, frick it, we're doing it live. I took a deep breath and shouted, "Oh, there you are. I couldn't find you after I went back to pick up my calculus book. Why aren't you picking up your phone?" I then ducked under the ribbons that divided us and got next to her in line. She initially had a look of total confusion and then a brief glimmer in her eye as she realizes that I'm cutting. She starts to smile slyly and plays along with my game. "Sorry, I hardly get service in here." We continued to talk all the way up the line and when it was time for us to part we exchanged numbers. TLDR. First day of college. Saw a beautiful girl in the bookstore ahead of me in line. I went up to her and pretended like I knew her so I could flirt with her and cut the line. She went along with it and I got her number. Update. Wow, didn't expect that. For those of you that are curious, we actually did go out for a while and turns out she was a freak in the bed. but things kinda started to get rocky over time because we just didn't have that much in common. She applied to transfer to a different university and got accepted, so that was essentially the final nail in the coffin. We were on again off again for summer and that was that. That's the smoothest thing I've ever heard of. My username is so irrelevant right now it hurts. It was me. I was talking to a girl I just met, and I asked her to step outside with me for a smoke. She said no way, it's too cold out there. I don't know why or how I got so brave, but I said come on baby, I'll keep you warm. She looked confused for a second. I thought I had made a mistake, but then after a couple more seconds thought she says okay. We went out to the patio and as soon as I sat down, she sat on my lap. We dated for about 6 months. I feel like the endings of these stories, linked right into the same sentence with actual events of being smooth, makes it seem like women are sitting on people's laps and causing 6 months to suddenly pass. I'd feel incredibly violated if I were that girl. It gives me the creeps just thinking about that guy doing that in front of a crowd. I'm almost certain that story didn't happen. Even if it did, it's definitely a rarity. I would expect a swift slap to the face for doing that to someone. I had a roommate in college that brought a girl over. I made her macaroni and cheese and she fricked me. About a month ago I was pretty much alone with a girl I liked at a party. For some reason I'm not quite sure why we were talking about nature. I had my arm on the back of the sofa around her and I said, completely normally like I was making a point, you know, you and me, we're nothing but mammals. We should do it like they do. And she finished my sentence. And we did. Reading this made me cringe. On New Year's Eve I had just finished watching a whole season of Archer. Long story short, got really drunk and acted like Sterling Archer. For those of you who don't know, Archer is a total dong. Funny, but a dong. Totally worked on a hot blonde. I introduced her to my danger zone, if you catch my drift. I wish it worked when I act like Krieger. I gotta do this sometime. I hooked up with a girl because I told her it was National Frick Day, and the entire nation would be disappointed in us if we didn't. If that doesn't work, next time you see her tell her it's International Frick Day, and not only will the nation be disappointed, you'll have been beaten by the other nations. You need to do your part. I recently attended my first ever wedding and spent over an hour trying to convince a random girl and a good friend that a threesome, admittedly a devil's threesome, was not something I wished to be involved in. I'm still not entirely sure how I managed to get into this situation. I spent 20 minutes talking to the girl about random stuff, went back to my hotel room to get a drink with my friend, and she appeared 5 minutes later and took off all her clothes. The best part about this is that it was a fundamentalist Christian wedding. I can't wait for the first secular one. Secular ones are boring due to the lack of repression. I hooked up with this chick that had no hair anywhere on her body including her head. Pretty smooth. I used to hit all the dating sites before I got married last year. Anyway, on first dates I would usually take them out to eat in a nice place and then hit one of patio bars close to my house, just in case I got lucky or if I bailed I didn't have far to drive. So, if things were going well early on in the night and we had the same sort of sarcastic raunchy sense of humor, I would tell the girl the number of dates it would take me to get them into bed. They were always flabbergasted at the audacity of my comment. I usually would say 2 dates or sometimes even say that they were going home with me that night. They would laugh and say that it was not going to happen and would resist the temptation, but it worked about 90% of the time. It's all about the confidence you exude. If they see that you confident but not cocky, you can get any chic into bed pretty quick. One last thing. Women want a frick just as much as we guys do. Don't think otherwise. A few times when I would say it would take 2 dates, if I saw things looking up as the first date was almost over, I would say, you know, let's just skip the second date and head back to my place tonight. Yes, it worked. Most of these were one night stands, but I never treated them as such. I always make sure they get theirs. You never know when you might hit a dry spell and want to repeat. Don't be greedy and worry about your own satisfaction. Make sure they leave your place happy and you can always invite them back. Remember, they will always remember the way you made them feel. Women want a frick just as much. I really wish it hadn't taken until I was 22 to believe this. I was visiting a friend who went to a different college than me. It was our freshman year, so he was in the dorms. We get back from a party and I'm all drunk and not tired. So I go stumbling down the halls of this dorm at some school I don't go to. He's on the guy's floor and the girl's floor is below. I decide to walk down there and see a girl getting ready to go to the bathroom to brush her teeth. I yell down to her and ask if I can borrow a toothbrush because I don't have one. She says yes and invites me back to her room. We start talking and she knows I'm drunk. She's sober. I get laid and stumble back to my buddy's room and pass out on his floor. I never saw that girl again, but if you're reading this, thank you. You made my trip to IUP fun. Also, another time I was at the bar at my own college. I was talking to this girl that I knew I recognized from somewhere. She said to me, you know we have class together. I say yeah, Intro to Africa LST semester. Right, she says yeah. We end up going back to my place and hooking up. The next morning she wakes me up and says I've never had Intro to Africa. We actually currently have poli science together and I sit in front of you. We had a 15-minute conversation about Family Guy before class last week. I just played it off like I was joking around with her the night before and that I remembered her. I didn't, but she was a fun girl. We hung out for a bit before she just up and stopped talking to me. I later found out she was engaged and is now married. I think she was just hooking up with me as a last fling before she tied the knot. Oh well, at least we will always have Intro to Africa. For this girl's birthday who I had a crush on, I gave her a copy of Moby Dong filled with my notes from school, a case of blank CDs, and a Chinese finger trap, all in a plastic grocery bag. After she thanked me with a nervous is he serious laugh, I told her she had beautiful calves. We are now dating. Excuse my English if the grammar is terrible, Swedish is my native tongue. And I was like, Jaya Fafayan. I was on the tube one day, slightly hungover and not really paying attention to anything. I was kind of staring blankly into space for ages and ages, hardly blinking, as I have a tendency to do when I'm hungover. I kind of came back into reality, and standing a few feet behind the space I had been staring blankly into was this hot girl, giving me the eye. She said, "Are you going to come and talk to me or are you just going to carry on staring at my boobs?" I was initially very confused, but I just went along with it. We dated for a few months after that, outside a nightclub. After closing time, group of about 4 girls walking past us. My mate called out after them, "Hey, where are you going? My apartment is that way," points in opposite direction. They say, "Oh cool, let's go." So, pretty smooth, right? Nope, sarp. My friend lives at home with his parents. Was the funniest deer caught in headlights moment ever. I hooked up with a girl who had just gotten waxed. Very smooth. I took a study break one night and was walking around my university campus. I noticed some sort of event was going on in the dining hall. There were balloons and posters set up, and a group of people had gathered at the entrance. I went inside and asked the girl who looked like she was running the event what was going on. She said it was a speed dating event being hosted by the college, but it was just ending. I told her if it was just ending, then we'd have to be quick. "Hi, my name is Trapped in Reddit. I like long walks on the beach, dogs, and your necklace." She blushed and told me to stop playing around. I told her I was completely serious. She said if I was so serious, then I should come back in an hour when she had finished cleaning up for the event and we could get to know each other. I came back an hour later, twirled her, and got her number. TLDR. I asked out the hostess at a speed dating event. Haha, that's brilliant. My move is very simple. As I'm studying architecture, I took a leaf out of the book of Stinson and used the Ted Mosby architect line, of course, with my name instead. I use the wink and point and all. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.